Welcome to Kim Talks Resilience, where we share stories of insight and inspiration in life, love, and business with resilient women from around the world. Speaking with authors, entrepreneurs, founders, and coaches to learn their strategies for a more resilient life so we can all build the life we love. I'm your host, Kim Hayden. Today's guest is Monique Verpoort. She is a registered social worker, trainer, and certified practitioner in the modality of emotional freedom techniques, EFT Tapping. She is the author of Is This All There Is? Living a Life Beyond Obligation, and has worked in the field of children's mental health for close to 20 years. So today's going to be a good talk because I think that a lot of people who sit on social media day in and day out and get sucked into that scroll hole and that silo effect, um, they're looking for positive conversations, and I'm hoping that's like where we're headed today because I think that's kind of I love that living beyond the obligation, and we're going to dive into that in a moment. But Monique,
Mhm.
first, welcome.
Thank you.
And I'd love for you to just kick us off today, go right into who is Monique?
Okay. Well, who is Monique? I am somebody I think that is just passionate about really encouraging, motivating people to just be the best they can be and work beyond fear and things that hold them back. And because I'm so passionate about this because this has been my journey, and I'm sure we'll get into that more. But it's sort of it can sound so cheesy, Kim, because we hear this all the time, but it's about just trying to you know, appreciate myself more, love myself more, recognize my gifts and what I can sort of bring to the world. Because at the end of the day, we all have that sort of light within us that wants to be of service in some way or another. And I think for me, this has been something I am just so pumped to do in any way that I can, specific to who I am and my talents and so on. So I'd like to see myself just as somebody who just wants to see the best in myself and see the best in other people and help them realize what those nuggets are within themselves.
Absolutely. I love how you say be of service because I think at the end of the day, if more of us have a service mindset versus a selfish mindset,
Mhm.
I think the world would be in a lot better space.
Oh, absolutely.
So, share with us what you're doing today to be of service.
Mhm.
What are you doing today? What are you doing now?
Well, what I'm trying to do now is really, I discovered, over a decade ago, sort of this modality that we'll talk about, but it's, emotional freedom techniques. And I have had such success with it myself. And I've been a witness to many women who have had a lot of success and men too, but I just happen in my sort of entourage, I'm exposed to more women. And it has really brought a much higher quality of life to the way that I show up. And so something like this, when you've had an experience like this that has been so beneficial, it's just, you just want to, shout it from the rooftops and get it out there as much as possible. And I just feel that, this is sort of this mission or this passion that won't leave me alone. It keeps telling me and reminding me, Monique, you got to do this. You got to do this. You can't sit on this, get it out there so that more people are exposed to it. And so right now, that's sort of my driving force is working beyond the real introvert personality that I am and, taking those risks to say, okay, this isn't about you. You put yourself aside. This is something bigger. So go beyond yourself and get this out there.
That is awesome. So take me through a bit. Uh, so you're working with clients. Tell me a little bit about what you're building right now in who the avatar is, who you're. I just want to have a little bit deeper dive into what does your day look like and who are you serving and how are you showing up?
Right. Well, right now, a lot of my day, I'm still in the children's mental health field, so I'm sort of working for an organization that helps children and families with self-regulation techniques. So that has been a theme throughout my life, my professional life for the last 20 years, is how to help especially these kids that have these really difficult, disruptive, what they call them disruptive behaviors, but it's really kids who have a really hard time, that they're struggling with themselves, they're struggling at school, they're struggling at home and in the community, and that are very unregulated, and helping the kids and their caregivers be able to reestablish that those self-regulation, so they can be more, they respond as opposed to react. So what I do in my day job is actually I'm a trainer, and I've taught many professionals across Canada and other parts of the world how to work with families within their own organizations. So that is sort of been the bulk of the work I do. On the side, I am a certified emotional freedom techniques practitioner with a small group of clients, and that is intentional because there are only so many hours in the day, and there's only so many energetic resources I have within myself. And so that's been an intentional choice, is to sort of get the word out more via different means, such as writing a book about it. But yeah.
That's awesome. It's interesting. Pardon me. One of the things that you just mentioned is self-regulation, and being in a space where you're working with people who are learning to regulate. You're giving them, skill sets and techniques to help guide them in a more positive trajectory. I just went to a talk, and it was about the um, how dysregulated the world is coming out of COVID specifically, how the kind of the definition of dysregulation is fear, uncertainty, and no end in sight.
Mhm.
Um, so when we talk about this, uh, is this really what you're seeing on your front end, and you're working to address, not trying, let's eliminate the word
Mhm.
trying, but you're working to address in your book, is helping them find, what's the opposite of fear? Safety, security, no end in sight, knowing that there is a timeline and attainables, right? Fear, uncertainty, and uncertainty is creating certainty within your own actions. Walk me through what you're seeing, the for your book, and we're going to dive into your book in a few moments. The people that you're serving in this, and by the way, side hustles are totally, this is the gig economy. Thank goodness for the millennials. They're teaching us all something, that you can have your passion and your proficiency. Thank you, millennials. But let's talk about some of your clients, and how you're working on that, helping them regulate, and helping to be of service.
Yeah. So, well, first of all, there's a term for 2022, which was perma crisis, because that's exactly what you've described, that we feel that we don't have control over very few things. I mean, everything's happening. We're in this crazy, crazy time with just so many things that are beyond our control. And I think that's for a lot of people, it's such a scary place, because if I have no control, what's going to
Yeah.
happen to me?
Yeah.
And the thing that really, with these self-regulation techniques, whether it is taking deep breaths and sort of changing those negative thinking patterns to positive thinking patterns, to help come up with sort of a course of action that is actually going to be enhancing the situation rather than making it worse, or whether it's tapping on these meridian points that we'll talk about, that has sort of the same effect in terms of regulating the body. It really allows this idea of emotional freedom. And emotional freedom, hence EFT, that's what it stands for, emotional freedom techniques, is this idea that, first of all, that no matter what's going on around us, no matter what chaos, we can still come inward and find that peace despite what's going on. And that's a really important piece, because it's easy to fall into sort of that place of helplessness and immobility, right? Because it's hard to get motivated to make change if we're feeling, well, what's the use? Like,
Yeah.
how do I deal with this? And the other piece of it too is when we can be more regulated more frequently by taking on some kind of habits. And this is what, to answer your question, that we would teach clients, or even professionals working with them, or anybody else that's listening to this, is how can we get into that place more frequently of having our nervous system in a parasympathetic rest and digest state, so that we can respond. We're not just being in that sympathetic fight, flight, anxiety, fear-driven place where we're making, decisions based on sort of just, without using that, frontal cortex of our brain. We're just impulsively doing things and not really seeing the consequences maybe of our action, or just having this pattern of reacting all the time. And with self-regulation techniques where we can spend more time in what Dr. Stephen Porges calls the window of tolerance, that place where, if something's bothering us, we kind of, we let it roll off our back, or we don't take it in as much as we might normally. And so we're not kind of all over the place. Like, we kind of have those moments of regulation where we can deal with whatever's coming at our way, and we can actually grow and tone the nervous system so that we can spend more time in that place. And that is the gift of being in a place where we can self-regulate, because then we can see options. Because when we're not in that place, we can't see options beyond just surviving in that moment.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, we're seeing the negative outcome when you feel that there are no options left. We're seeing homicides and suicides going through the roof. And this is because there was no game plan coming out of being locked down. There was, and abuse didn't stop because we were locked down. Nobody put that nasty behavior on hold. So those people were just locked in. Right. So we just compounded the victimization of many people.
Oh, yes,
So,
absolutely.
and as many people like yourself that can come forward, Monique, and even just take, like you said, a small amount of people. If you can help 5 people, the reality is that becomes 50 people really fast. The ripple effect is huge.
Right.
One person, when one person, that's like that stone in the middle of a pond, you throw it in, and you watch these ripples that cascade out to the shoreline. And in those ripples, they move with them. And so that's really, really important, because one drop, one stone, one person can literally change a shoreline, can literally change the topography, change the trajectory. And it just takes one person like yourself, Monique. I would love to dive into a story of resiliency if you're open to that.
Oh, absolutely. I've got a few, but I'll go with the one that's more recent to me, I think, where I had about 4 years ago, I had a fall. I was out, really, really great walk in the woods with my husband, and we're having a great time, going at a good clip. And he was to the right side of me and I was to the left. And off to the right, I noticed this little path going into this forested area. And I love trees, and I was just so drawn, oh, take this path, but I hadn't vocalized it out loud. So I automatically went to turn right, and he was still going straight, and I tripped over his foot. And what happened was that I landed really hard on this patch of ground underneath this tree, and I fell on the back of my head, and I lost consciousness. And so, because he was unable to sort of support me getting up, so I kind of blacked out. And then I, came up, and I took a few more steps, and boom, I went down again, second time, kind of blacked out. And the result of that was a mild traumatic brain injury that I have never fully recovered from. It had more cognitive implications. So in terms of my processing speed was slower, my short-term memory was not good. And for the first few weeks, I was like totally out of it, and afraid. There was a lot of fear. It was like, okay, this better not be my new normal here, because I don't like it. And so that was, I was very dysregulated. Talk about dysregulated, with all those sort of negative thoughts and just not knowing how to cope with the situation. And so fortunately, there are tools that can really help us move through things like this, where there's a lot of sadness and fear and frustration and anger and all those myriad of emotions that a situation like that would go through. So I was able, with time, of course, things do get better with time, but I also was able to use this tool, EFT tapping, that helped me work through these different emotions and help me get regulated and help me get a new perspective on what I was going through and the person that I was choosing to become as a result of what this circumstance brought me. So I think that for me, because this was a really major life change. It
Yeah.
affected so many things, in terms of my decisions about where I needed to go.
And brain injuries can leave lasting effects on recall, personality, everything. It's incredible and it's is finding that normal, like working as hard as you can to get back. And did that experience influence your perspective when building your book, when compiling your book, putting that message together?
Well, it was interesting, Kim, because I had already written 3/4 of the book when I had this injury. And, that day, I remember I had the intention, when I come back from this walk, I'm going to finish this portion of the book. So anyway, I have this fall. I'm like out of it. I fractured my left arm because I was trying to protect my fall. I'm like in really bad shape, but I was determined to finish writing this book. So it was almost like, okay, I'm going to do this anyway, and which was not the right thing to do in hindsight. That was kind of dumb. But what it did do, it actually influenced that last part of the book even more, because it just really reminded me, like, oh my gosh, like I'm living proof really of this working, and working in a way that allows me to accept my situation. So it doesn't mean I like it, but it allows me to accept it. So I'm not resisting and fighting against it. And when you can accept something, you have that peace, as you know, where it's like, okay,
Yeah.
this is just something. I have no control over this. I can do the best I can, but what can I do with this? And so it gave me those additional insights that really helped me when I was going through sort of the editing and all that piece. Helped me sort of strengthen some areas of the book. Yeah, for sure.
So it's almost as if we could actually kind of journey with you. Do you see a difference in the last quarter versus the first three quarters?
I see a difference in terms of, I think the last part is sort of practical tips on how to get there, but there's also a spiritual component to this, because I think with anything, taking sort of the broader viewpoint of something that whatever it happens in your life, it really does help me, and that piece informed sort of that spiritual aspect that I did take, in terms of how self-regulation and a belief in sort of something bigger than myself together was going to really make the difference.
Very cool. Okay, can you bring the book forward? Because it's a
Oh,
beautiful cover. Who did your cover on the book? Because it's
Oh,
gorgeous.
thank you. Well, I'm actually, that's a real compliment, because I did self-publish, and I let the designer know that this is what I wanted. I love bright colors, and I love sort of this kind of cloudy sort of look to the book. And then I wanted sort of something that would help people to understand what does she mean by living a life beyond obligation. And so I thought, in my head, I imagined a woman, because my target is largely women, although men are not excluded from this modality whatsoever.
We're not being excluded.
We're not being
Nobody's being excluded. This is,
right.
open to everyone.
Exactly, exactly. But just somebody would think, oh, it's the questioning. It's like, maybe there is something beyond my doing everything for everybody and putting myself on the back burner. Maybe there's something to that. So that was sort of the vision behind that.
What can readers expect to take away from the book, especially in today's world where we have food insecurities, we have housing insecurities, we have job insecurities, and we're coming out of it entirely insecure. Like it's really scary for a lot of people in their heads.
Mhm.
Somebody picks up this book, what can they expect to take away from the book?
Mhm. My hope is that they can expect that, regardless of what their situation is, and yes, let's never minimize that there are a lot of people that are really hurting and scared to scared to death, basically,
Yes.
about, as you said, survival needs and so on.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping that what they can get from this is that they can start to slow down a little bit, just give themselves permission, slow down, take a minute, try to block off from everything that's going on, go within. And with the modality of emotional freedom techniques, it allows them, it's a tool to help them get there. Because when you're so frazzled and pulled in so many directions, the last thing you feel that you can do is sit down and just take some time out for you. But with this sort of, with the tapping, we're using our own fingertips on these acupoints on our body and torso, which is calming our emotional brain. And it's allowing our nervous system to take a breath, take a pause, right, to calm down. And in that moment, perhaps there are options that you did not see when you were in that fight, flight, freeze mode. And that maybe, you have an inkling that, hey, you know what, there are some things I do actually have control over. They might be very tiny, but, I can start here and I can see a positive impact. And from there, that, like you said, it can grow into something bigger, or you might see a possibility that you never, ever would have thought about before. And so it's a first step to trying to get in that regulated space so you can see those opportunities. And it's a beautiful in the moment stress reduction technique that takes virtually no time at all to get centered and grounded and present, so that your mind isn't going forward. What do I do? What's going to happen? And go into those dark, fearful places that a lot of us are going into. So that is sort of the main pieces there. And then for people who want to go deeper, there's a lot of exercises that they can do to start digging away at these, the limiting core beliefs that are keeping them in this stuck place. And because for a lot of us, the pandemic and the uncertainty is actually triggering a lot of childhood stuff for a lot of people around issues of survival and all kinds of things, right? And so with this, working with the subconscious to sort of neutralize these beliefs so that you can make space for something much more uplifting and positive. That is the hope, to get more energy in the system, to feel that you can do something for yourself and your family, something more. And then that ripples out, as you said, to the greater community. But we have to be good with ourselves first and feel like we have those resources to do that.
Starts with ourselves. Absolutely.
Yeah.
A lot of people find that they feel guilty for even taking a moment. Can we address the elephant in the room?
Yes.
Let's talk about guilt and getting rid of the guilt and bringing in that self-care or that self-awareness. Is this something that you run across?
Absolutely. My experience, especially dealing with sort of caregivers of kids that have these issues, and often they are solo parents, not always, and they have so much on their plate. And when you talk to them about the self-care, taking time, that's the first answer. Well, I don't have time for this. I've so much on my plate. I've got to, help my child, and I'm called to the school, and I have all, et cetera, et cetera. I have to go to work, all these legitimate reasons. But, it's always the same thing. If you take the time for yourself to actually be in a better place, be better resourced, have the greater capacity to be able to help other people, you actually are helping others by taking time for yourself. Because if you're depleted, like I know myself, if I'm depleted or overwhelmed, I can't do anything for anybody. It's not in me. And then I get down, right? I have that potential to have that low grade depression that I've kind of had all my life. And if I don't keep that in check, it can get the better of me. So I just say, like, fill yourself up first. It's, we hear about that airplane analogy all the
Airplane,
time.
yes.
But it's so true, though. Like, you need that oxygen for yourself before you can help anybody else. So you're actually doing other people a favor by taking a few moments. It doesn't have to be hours. For crying out loud, take 10, 15 minutes a day. You deserve it. That's your time. Preserve it. And, if you have to go into your room and let whoever you're looking after know, listen, I need some time to myself, just to, time out, time in, or whatever you want to call it. I'm going to take this time for me, but I will be better able to, do whatever needs to happen afterwards. So it's so important.
Absolutely. You touched on something that I am curious about, combining your expertise in your proficiency within child services and child support and your passion through this, offering this new coaching or support space for adults. And you just touched on something. A lot of women are the sole caregivers. Are there pieces of the book or strategies within the book that a mother of two who has one child that is struggling could actually start implementing maybe at the dinner table or in the morning before they all run out the door for school or at bedtime? Because a lot of these women are working two
Mhm,
jobs
mhm,
and not I'm very happily married, two boys, and I hate having to qualify this all the time. I am not a man hater. I want to make this very clear. I love the men in my life, and I think most men are doing the best they can. However, a lot of women don't even have child support to
mhm.
help offset the raising of their children. What are some of the tools in the book that maybe can extend beyond just her and help her children also?
Mhm. Yeah, oh, I love that question, Kim. Thank you for bringing that up. We know that with any kind of parent who's in a situation like that, or even if there are two caregivers, but the circumstances are not great, and we know that the burden of caregiving often is does rely more on the woman, even though men, as you said, do step up to the plate and do the best they can for sure. Um, but our kids are picking up our anxieties and our fears and our stress, and that's stressing them out more. It's like that cycle, right, where if the parent is stressed out, the child is very hypervigilant and in tune to what's going on for the parent. So for starters, the more that parent can arrive, when they're interacting with their child or when they're at the table and things are maybe more calm, or some kind of circumstance where that parent can, first of all, do some of these self-regulation techniques that, as I said, are quite simple, and then teach them to their children. I mean, this is something that's beautiful in the way that parents often feel very helpless about how they can help their kids with these angst and everything that's bombarding their kids' mental health. And so if they can normalize, hey, this is, and demonstrate, model for their child, okay, this is, lots are going on, but, mommy's doing this or daddy's doing this, teaching their child, and then they can do it together. And it's a really nice way to co-regulate. So it's the parents' nervous system in a calm state is actually impacting their child's nervous system, and letting the child know intellectually, but also from a physical point of view, an energetic point of view, it's bringing them both down so that they can, first of all, it's a really nice a bonding activity between
Yep.
parent and child. And then if you have small kids, you can make it fun. Like you can add, little songs, or you can do it to music, or it doesn't have to be this heavy duty, we're doing a therapeutic modality together now,
Well, do you remember head, shoulders, knees, and toes?
Yes, exactly.
Head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. Like, you can literally pull that right into it. I love one of the, and I think that's something that's been lost a little because we don't do the singing with our children anymore. There's a lot of things that we did 20, 30 years ago that are no longer done today. And a lot of that was connectivity.
Mhm.
You're about this. I think you and I are about the same age. I believe. Do you remember Jamie Lee Curtis had that commercial back in like the 90s, 80s and 90s? How do you make a perfect teenager? You start with a pound of ground beef, you add in your oats, you add in this, you bake further, and then you sit down and you talk to them over dinner.
Mm.
It was such a great again, it's that connectivity.
Yeah, yeah.
It's that connectivity. Is there anything else that you'd like to share on your book, on your journey of becoming an author, anything like that?
Um, well, just that it was a therapeutic process for myself, for starters, because I really tried to put in examples from my own life in terms of how my sort of development or growth, and how this tapping helped me immensely. And I also included 5 stories from women that I know personally, and I knew them prior to this process of transformation, because with tapping, it is not just a stress regulation technique. It actually has a lot of incredible benefits. And I think women have told me that they really resonate with a lot of the stories that are provided in this book. And it's just, they've also said it's so hopeful to see the pre and then see the post, and everything that's transpired, during sorry, my earbuds are falling out.
No worries.
that has transpired. And so I really hope that readers really connect with these stories in there, and they can say, hey, you know, it worked for this person. I can relate. I had similar issues here. And wow, look at where this person has come and how they're now coping with, you know, with life after this transformation. So and there's also some resources in there, little activities that you can do to kind of you name those parts of you. I tried to be a little creative in terms of naming these parts of you want to see more of within yourself, and how you can give them more airtime, you know, such as a creativity, such as the fun part, because we're often really serious, and life is serious. There's absolutely no doubt about that, but there's still room for fun. And so how do you kind of develop that more? Things like that.
Awesome. Quick question for you. Where can people find you and connect in with you?
Yeah. My website is Moniqueverpoort.com. So would you like me to spell that, Kim?
I am putting it right up here. It's
Okay.
Moniqueverpoort.com.
Yeah.
Awesome. Where are you at on social media?
I'm on Facebook, Monique Verpoort EFT, and on Instagram, Verpoort author. And also the book is available not only on the website, but on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles, all the online booksellers. But I also wanted to say there's some resources on my website, I think, that are going to be very
Wonderful.
helpful for people in terms of knowing where those tapping points are, and also with a script that kind of, you know, tells how to use it. And there's also 2 free chapters that people can access to see if they want to read more.
Excellent, excellent. So there you go, folks. You know, resources that you can implement, and right now it cost free. It's barrier free, folks. And then grab a couple chapters there that will make a good kind of maybe reset your mind, get yourself set forward. Monique, you are truly lovely. I love what you're doing, and I love that you're a person of service. And this is really where, you know, creating the platform here at Kim Talks Resilience to showcase those who are willing to step out in front, put their hand up and say, I'm here to serve. And I appreciate that. I appreciate you.
Well, thank you very much.
But can you share with us a quote that inspires you?
Well, it ties in beautifully to our conversation. It's by Eleanor Roosevelt. The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams.
That, you
And
know what? I am going to put you full screen. Can you
okay.
please say that?
Yep. The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. And I love that quote. I think it says it all, but I think especially today, this is so important because we can't stop dreaming. We can't stop wanting something better for ourselves and for the world, and bringing our light into the world. And it doesn't matter. You don't have to be famous to do it, but just take those little steps and have that dream and follow your heart in terms of where you want to go.
That is so well said. So well said. Thank you, Monique. I really appreciate this. This is what we all need to hear. Lean in. Everybody lean in. Monique, until next time, I can't wait to drop this on my Spotify, on my iTunes, all of those things. And I will make sure, folks, that her book link is in there. Her social links are in all the show notes, so you can easily go and grab that. Do invest in yourself. Remember, got to put your oxygen mask on first so you can serve those around you. All right. Until next time, I am going to bring up my super cool and awesome closing. Thank you for joining us here today at Kim Talks Resilience. I'm your host, Kim Hayden, and I'd love to invite you to our resilient community at resilientgift.com. That's resilientgift.com, and we'll send you our magazine and tickets for upcoming events and all sorts of cool things we do here. So be sure to keep watching. And you know what? Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share, because we all know that sharing is caring.